Good afternoon. Welcome to the DEFCON Warning System Digest. My name is Thomas Lillingwolf. I'm the director of the DEFCON Warning System. For those of you who are new to this digest, we are an intelligence organization. What we do is we analyze the threat of nuclear war anywhere in the world. We used to do it just for the United States. Now we do it for anywhere in the world. That includes nuclear war in the Korean Peninsula, India, Pakistan, China, anywhere now. We feel that governments, when it comes down to nuclear war, it's such a terrifying subject, and what governments don't want to do is they don't want to panic the citizenry, so they'll kind of downplay how serious the situation is. So we kind of act as like a watchman on the wall, where We'll tell you stuff that the government doesn't want you to know. We're not kind of doing that in a conspiracy theory sort of way, like black helicopters and contrails and evil aliens and Planet X. No, we don't do that. What we do is we just take the information that's available out there. We also have some sources inside militaries and governments, excuse me. And what we do is we take that, we analyze it, we look at the history of countries, histories of conflicts, we look at the personalities involved, and we come up with an alert code to how close we feel we are to nuclear war. So theoretically, what we'll do is we'll sound the alarm long before the government will, which will hopefully give the public time to do what they need to do in order to protect themselves. Nuclear war is such a horrible subject that nobody really wants to think about it until somebody flashes a warning sign in their face. So that's what we kind of do. We're trying to flash the warning sign. So please visit us at our website, defconwarningsystem.com. We also have a Twitter feed, DEFCON WS Alerts. I know it's kind of a mouthful, so let me say it again. DEFCON WS, the two letters WS Alerts, DEFCON WS Alerts. We tried to get just DEFCON, but that's owned by a hacking group. So you don't want just DEFCON. DEFCON WS Alerts. And what we do is we put out tweets, what the alert code is, any information that comes out. Like I said, our website, we publish articles out there, publish our own articles as well to keep you up to speed of what's going on in the world, so you can make an informed decision as to what you need to do to protect yourself, protect your family, and to ready yourself. We're not a survivalist site. We don't really do that. There are other sites that are much better at that, although we do have some survival information. We also partner with My Patriot Supply, where you can get survival supplies, because if nuclear war is coming, you don't want to just, sit there and wait for it. You want to protect your family. The last thing you want is, the bombs come, and, if you're not one of the quote lucky ones who die immediately, you're sitting out there with the fallout and the radiation. Your family turns to you and say, "What are we going to do? How are you going to protect us?" And you just turn around and go, "Duh, I don't know what to do." Nuclear war is survivable. There's a lot of people out there who say that nuclear war isn't survivable. They're defeatists. They don't know what they're talking about. Nuclear war is survivable if you prepare. And like I said, there are sites out there who will help you prepare. There's a wonderful book out there. I plug this every time that I can. Creston Kearney's Nuclear War Survival Skills. It's considered the go-to manual on how to survive nuclear war. So anyway, I'm kind of getting off topic. Every month we put out an update. We do an update more often as the alert code goes higher. We march closer to nuclear war. A recent update was March 19th, 2019. And what we're going to do in these digests is we go more in detail than what the update did. The updates are designed to be very quick, last 3 or 4 minutes, a very quick read or a very quick listen if you're listening to it on the podcast. These digests will go more into detail to explain what exactly it means, what brought us to this conclusion, why we are at the alert level that we are, and what we kind of foresee is going to happen in the next coming weeks or months, or what's going to come out of these events. So a good place to find this information is on our community forum. That's where you can actually interact with the DEFCON staff. We do read the comments in Twitter, but we don't actually have the ability to reply to them very often because we're very, very busy. Community forum is a much better place to interact with us. We highly encourage you to go there. And one more thing, and then I will get into the digest. I promise. I was told it's better to put this stuff at the front end than the back end because nobody listens to the back end. So YouTube has made it very difficult for us to monetize our videos, our podcasts, things like that. We used to, but they up the number of hours that you have to have people listen to. It's an ungodly amount, things like 4,000 hours per year or something like that. And so we're not able to monetize our YouTube. So that's that. So we encourage you to visit our website. We do have advertising there. We didn't used to for 35 years. We finally had to because the cost of the server and the research and everything like that, and the equipment we need to run the system. So please visit our website. We do partner with My Patriot Supply. We get a portion of the revenue from there. You can also donate from us. You can also purchase from our store. Those T-shirts and things like that. So that's how we support the DEFCON warning system. Okay, that's enough of that. Now let's get into the digest. So as of March 19th, 2019, and continuing on, it's April 3rd. We were going to do this on the 1st, but we don't like doing things on April 1st because people think it's an April Fool's. DEFCON 1, April Fool. So anyway, there are currently no nuclear threats at this time. We are currently at DEFCON 5, green. That's as good as it gets. If you watch TV, a lot of times they get the DEFCON wrong, where they say, this is nuclear war, DEFCON 5, DEFCON 5. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, vaporize. So think of it that way. So the lower the number gets, the worse it gets. So we're at DEFCON 5. You may have missed this in the news. They didn't do a very good job of covering this, but India and Pakistan were very close to going to war. They were actually a lot closer. Even the news reports that were covering this didn't get how close they were to actually going to an honest-to-goodness war, as opposed to the skirmishes that go on, that generally go on between the two countries. But currently, if you were following this, you knew that there was an attack by Pakistan, and India responded. They were definitely revving themselves up much more than they were. India has an election that's coming up, and so the candidate was really putting on the whole patriotic, defend India's honor. So that's kind of why there was kind of an overreaction maybe to what was happening at the line of control. Pakistan being Pakistan, they kind of went overboard too. This all started with what Pakistan claims is a rogue terrorist. Now, there are some people who believe that this rogue terrorist, quote unquote, is actually backed by the government, and he does things that the government wants that the government can disassociate. So we don't have anything idea what's going on. So that's what India believes, and so they responded, and so Pakistan responded, because just because I hit you, you're not allowed to hit me back. So that really escalated really bad. So they were kind of taking steps to actually go into war. Now, these are nuclear armed countries, and so anytime there's a conflict between them, you got to kind of watch a little bit. But the conflict between India and Pakistan has gone on for so long over this line of control over Kashmir that it's kind of a bad thing to say that just because somebody got shot or there was a bombing or whatever, that's almost kind of like normal. Now it's just another day in Kashmir. And that's a horrible thing to say, but that's really kind of the way that it is. So when this happened, it really went a step up, and the rhetoric was very, very hot, and there were military moves going on. So we went to DEFCON 4, blue, because it was getting to the point where it was almost where they couldn't back down, that they just had to keep going. And that's one of the big fears of nuclear war, because somebody does something and somebody feels they have to react. Instead of saying, we're just going to let this go, we're just going to blow it off. No, they have to react because honor makes them react. And the other guy says, well, they reacted, so now we have to react. And it just keeps escalating like that. Nobody is willing to back down because they feel that if we back down, that'll be shown as a sign of weakness, and the other guy is just going to step it up even more, so we have to show them that we're ready to defend ourselves. Well, the other guy sees that as a movement of aggression, and so they feel they have to defend themselves, and so the other guy says, well, they're defending themselves, so now we have to defend ourselves even more. And you can see how circular that just becomes. As soon as somebody does something, the other guy has to react. Well, the other guy has to react to that reaction. Well, the other guy has to react to that reaction, which is reaction to the reaction. So do you see how ridiculous that is? Well, that's what happens. That's what was happening over in India and Pakistan, and that's the big fear of what's going to happen when nuclear war actually starts. But let's keep this focused on India and Pakistan. I'll try and keep it as focused as I possibly can, which I don't do very well. But currently, hostilities between India and Pakistan have normalized. Notice I didn't say they've gone away; they've normalized. We're back to the skirmishes that we kind of see all the time. While there continues to be conflict and military action along the line of control, the situation has calmed down sufficiently that the threat of escalated conflict has diminished, and there's no immediate threat of nuclear war between the two countries at this time. So, like I said, if you were following this in the news, and you probably weren't, not because of you, but because the news media wasn't really covering this, and I'll get to that in just a moment, because that's a really big pet peeve of mine. If you were following this in any amount, and if you were following us in the DEFCON warning system, you were definitely well informed about what was going on. Everything is kind of back to normal. It's back to as normal as is normal for them. If this thing of Kashmir is ever going to be resolved, it's not going to be anytime soon. In the last digest, we went into the big history of Kashmir, so we're not going to do that again. If you're interested, go back and listen to it. At least I think I went into it enough to cover the history of that. So the public is cautioned to take steps to keep abreast of the situation, however, as the Western media did a poor job of relaying vital information to the public during the crisis. The DEFCON warning system is concerned that should hostilities again break out, the public will be ill-informed if they rely on major media venues. Now, this kind of goes to where I was talking about right at the beginning, where the government really kind of doesn't want to tell you what's going on because it's too scary. There's a line in the day after, keep the panic at the low sweat stage.
Who knows? The president speaking on television at 6 tonight. Maybe he'll tell us something new.
Well, they'll tell us what they want us to hear. Keep the panic at the low sweat stage.
See, words of wisdom. So that's our great fear of what's going to happen, is that the government's just not going to tell us. And the media certainly didn't do a good job when it came to India, Pakistan. It has to do a lot with, ratings. What do they think the public is interested in? Certainly the U.S. media didn't do a good job. Even world media, the BBC did cover it, Reuters did cover it, but not in the manner that we thought really brought across the seriousness of the situation. We really kind of had to hunt down information on what was going on over there. It really should have been front page, headline, you need to look at this, as opposed to kind of like sidebar, fourth column, page 16, like newspapers exist anymore. So, but in American media, and I focus a little bit on this because this is what I'm most familiar with, because I live in the United States, you really, really did not get the attention that this needed, because I don't know what the headlines were from back then. I remember reading them, but I don't know. Did it have to do with a Kardashian or something? I don't know, or the Academy Awards. I think it was the Academy Award time back then, wasn't it? So I guess during the India-Pakistan thing. So I guess that kind of knocked off, or maybe the impeachment. There's a lot of stuff going on about the Miller report and possibility of the United States president being impeached. So I guess that was the big media thing. So unimportant things like nuclear countries attacking each other, that just kind of fell off to the wayside. That got put alongside Disneyland raising its ticket prices again. So I guess that's where rated on its important meter. The problem is, India and Pakistan is so far away that it really doesn't kind of register on most people's radars. Even in England, it's far enough away where they're really not thinking about that much. And goodness knows Americans don't think about things outside their border already. It doesn't help that that's not covered by the media, so they're not going to know what's going on. So if something does escalate over there, they're not going to hear about it until until the missiles are just flying, and the fallout will be here in about 48 hours or something like that, or however long the winds blow. I don't have the chart in front of me. We will. I do have this information in front of me. I don't have it sitting in front of me. That was kind of like an off the cuff comment, so I don't have it in front of me. I'm more than happy, to get that information when we need it. I will have that. I'll be able to tell you down to the minute when the radiation will get here. But for this digest, it was an off the cuff comment. I don't have the chart in front of me. Don't cost me points because I couldn't remember how long it takes for fallout to get from India to the United States. So this is where the public needs to be a bit more proactive about getting information, because the news media just isn't going to give it to you. And when they do give it to you, who knows what format it's going to be, who knows how it's going to be covered. They may not want to tell you the important stuff. They want to tell you what they think is going to be the ratings grabber. that's kind of cynical on my part, but it seems to be that's where it's going. They're not going to tell you what you need to know. They're going to tell you what is going to make you tune into them, what's going to make you watch the commercials. And I know I really shouldn't be getting that deep into that because, that's not what we do. We're supposed to analyze policy and evaluate the threat of nuclear war. I'm not supposed to bag on American media or media in general because they don't do their job very well. But the problem is that's where people get their information from. And if you can't rely on where you're getting your information from, you're going to be in a lot of trouble when something happens because you weren't told. The people who manage the information aren't doing their job because for whatever reason. And if you want to debate the reasons, our community forum is that way. So let me bottom line this. It is our belief that the media does not give you the information you need to prepare for nuclear war, to see it coming. We now just saw that with India and Pakistan. It was almost completely absent from the headlines. If it happened, you wouldn't have known it until the bombs went off. So the public is going to have to take their own proactive steps to keep informed. Now, if you want to do that through the DEFCON warning system, that's great. That's what we do. If you want to do it through someplace else, more power to you. But don't rely on the 6 o'clock news. It's going to sneak up on them and it's going to sneak up on you. So that's kind of where we are as regards to the media. I'm sorry to bottom line it like that. I'm sorry to sound so cynical. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you're in the media yourself and you want to, debate it. Please feel free. But right now, I'm kind of dour on the American media in particular because they did such a vastly poor job when it came to the India-Pakistan crisis. Fortunately, that crisis has passed and it's back to normal now. Unfortunately, what the definition of normal is not my definition of normal, but there it is. At least we're not looking at an escalation to nuclear war at this time. Moving away from India and Pakistan, North Korea, well, they're just a mess. They've kind of been in the headlines a little bit, not as much as they should be, but I know there was this big meeting between the United States and North Korea recently that did not go well. But prior to that, North Korea, according to reports, continues to produce plutonium and highly enriched uranium, which are used for nuclear weapons. Strangely, we get a lot of flack for reporting on stuff like this. They say that we get a lot of comments that you're just against Donald Trump. You're against the United States. We're not against anybody. We're just telling you what's happening. North Korea is continuing their nuclear program. Some believe that their program is advanced enough where they don't need to do any test detonations anymore. It can be all done on computer simulation. I don't know. I don't exactly subscribe to that theory. I think they still need to do some more. Plus, it shows off what they have. So I think we'll see another test detonation in the future. There are signs that they're gearing up to do another missile launch. They're certainly preparing one of their missile platforms. But we want to emphasize that the North Korean nuclear program has not stopped, despite everything that the United States tried to say about their last summit meeting, that they've got a great relationship with North Korea, that North Korea talks about disarming the area and getting both sides to disarm and making peace and all these flowery statements. None of that appears to have happened. They're still continuing with their nuclear research program, and there's no signs of stopping. Speaking of the recent summit, during the recent summit between North Korea and the United States, no agreement was reached. Additionally, the summit was cut short as North Korea refused to give up nuclear weapons. It has just been reported recently that the United States kind of slipped North Korea a note, literally, a piece of paper that said, give us your nuclear missiles. Disarm, give all your nuclear weapons to us, all your nuclear stuff, and then relationships can normalize and things like that. When North Korea walked out, they would have none of that, and that's when the two parties just walked away. That's when the United States walked away. That's when North Korea walked away. North Korea was just not having that. This is something that we've said a long time ago. North Korea has no intention of giving up its nuclear weapons. Now, they do have a legitimate beef in that this generation has now grown up under their propaganda that the United States is going to invade at any moment. And so they have this belief that they need their nuclear weapons to keep the United States at bay. Whether that's a thought process that can be overcome? Don't know, probably not, but that is where North Korea is sitting right now, and that's why they really have no intention of giving up their nuclear weapons. It's also part of their country's honor. It's something that shows strength, that they're a country to be reckoned with. So that's why we put out an article a long time ago that says North Korea has absolutely no intention of giving up their nuclear weapons. And as we see now, when the United States says, give up your nuclear weapons and things normalize, they just walked away. They aren't going to do it. National pride, they don't trust the United States. How they can get over that, that's something for the diplomats to deal with, but that is their mindset, and we don't know how to overcome that. The United States is taking a very hardline approach right now. Strength is something that the North Koreans will respect, but whether it will get the results that the United States wants, the problem is that they really don't have an incentive, because China and Russia help North Korea get around any sanctions that the United States and the world put on them. So there's no real pain from sanctions. Certainly the North Korean leaders don't feel any pain, and that's really all that matters. It doesn't matter that the people feel pain, that the people are starving, that the people, have guts that are infested with these parasites. I mean, do you remember hearing the reports of the North Korean defected soldiers who defected, and they had these bugs in their guts because of the food that they were eating, and they get the better food. These soldiers get the better food in order to keep them loyal, and they were just horribly malnourished. Can you imagine what the people are like? But as long as the leadership is fed well and they have all their toys and everything like that, they got their DVDs and their wine and their everything like that, what difference does it make? And that's what China and Russia know. So they keep feeding North Korean leadership with what they want, and sanctions don't matter because they don't feel the pressure of the sanctions. And as long as that happens, as long as China and Russia are not on board, North Korea has no incentive to change. The reason North Korea came to the table before was not because of the U.S. sanctions by themselves, but because China was kind of honoring those sanctions. They also started withholding stuff from North Korea, and that brought North Korea to the table. So the sanctions do work if they are followed. The problem is they're not being followed. Therefore, North Korea has absolutely zero incentive to negotiate on their nuclear weapons program. So that's where we're sitting at right now. As much as the United States wants to go out there and say, we're making progress, North Korea is a great guy, and we get along fine, and all this really flowery, wonderful language, it's not working. North Korea is not disarming, and we're going to be back there sooner rather than later. North Korea has begun to restore some of its Dongchangri missile launch site. We just talked about that a moment before, that there are signs that there is going to be another missile launch. I don't know if that's true. These are very preliminary reports. They're all based on that they're rebuilding their missile launch site. I don't see any reason why they're rebuilding it if they don't intend to use it. So I kind of see where they can come to that kind of conclusion. South Korea reports that North Korea is running uranium enrichment facilities normally at Yongbyon Nuclear Research Facility. Remember, this was supposed to have been shut down. They were because of the negotiations earlier. But the South Korean spy agency says that this plant was running normally even before the recent summit between the United States and North Korea. Now, so you can see that there's just been a history of deception on North Korea's part. They can't be trusted. I mean, that's the bottom line. I wish I had better news for you on the Korean front, but they're going to be a problem in the future. Whatever's going on over there right now is just a lull in the news cycle. But they're continuing their nuclear weapons program, and the United States is going to go back over there. This isn't over by a long shot. Between South Korea and the United States, new war games by the U.S. and South Korea angered North Korea, which called the games a wanton violation of recent agreements, because they're continuing the nuclear weapons program is not a wanton violation of any nuclear agreement or understanding. Or just sometimes with this kind of stuff, you just feel so helpless because the United States has a diplomatic face they have to keep. They don't want to be seen as an aggressive country and become a pariah like North Korea is, while North Korea doesn't care because they have China as a benefactor and Russia as a benefactor. And I don't know what's going through Russia's mind at the moment. With Venezuela, they're backing an obvious creep, and they're backing North Korea with just this madman. I don't know why they're backing these people. The United States has a history of backing insane people as well, but that doesn't excuse them from backing North Korea, but they are. So I'm not going to go off on a rant on that. I'm just going to say that with Russia and China backing North Korea, again, they've got no incentive. So they're continuing on with their nuclear weapons program, and the United States is going to be back there, and we're going to be doing all this again. Administration after administration goes over to North Korea and tries to negotiate, and North Korea just plays the waiting game because they know the United States doesn't have the guts to do what is necessary, or they don't have the ability to do what is necessary because they have people like Russia and China who are just willing to continue getting around any sanctions that the Western world puts on them. And until that stops, North Korea is going to get a workable nuclear weapon. They've already got the nuclear weapon. They can use it, just not very accurately. Some don't believe it'll survive on re-entry. It doesn't really matter whether a bomb goes off over Las Vegas or if it goes off in the desert of Las Vegas. Just the fact that a nuclear weapon explodes on the United States or over the United States is really just kind of good enough. And all they got to do is just threaten Seoul. Just say, do what we want or we're going to nuke Seoul. They certainly have the delivery vehicle for that. What's the world going to do? Are they going to fight North Korea when North Korea has usable nuclear weapons under the theory that they might not work? They might not reach the United States. Do you really think the United States is going to take that kind of chance? We'll sacrifice Los Angeles for Seoul. Some people may be willing to sacrifice Los Angeles for Seoul or San Francisco or New York, but the United States isn't going to do that. So the further along North Korea gets with this nuclear program, the less you're going to be able to negotiate with them. This is kind of what happened back at the end of World War II. At the end of World War II, some people believed it was important to turn around and attack the Soviet Union before the Soviets were able to respond, especially with nuclear weapons. Now, the Soviet Union made this wonderful bluff that they have a ton of nuclear weapons, so the United States had better not do anything. And it worked. The United States believed them, and so they didn't do anything. Well, the truth was, the Soviet Union's had a couple nuclear weapons. So if the United States would have gone into the Soviet Union, they could have just stopped them, and there would have been no Soviet Union, no Cold War for 40 years. That's kind of where North Korea is right now. They have some nuclear weapons, may or may not be workable, but the fact that they have them is enough to scare the United States, and it's going to come to the point where North Korea has enough nuclear weapons where they are now a real threat as opposed to a theoretical one. And when they become a real threat, well, who knows what North Korea is going to demand then? We may actually enter the age of nuclear blackmail. And if you ever saw the movie Special Bulletin, you kind of know what I'm talking about, except now we're talking on a national scale. This was a very large update. We're going to split it up into two parts because nobody wants to sit here for an hour listening to a podcast update talking about nuclear war. It kind of gets a little too long. So we're splitting this up. I'm going to end it now, but let me remind you, DEFCON Warning System is a private intelligence agency which monitors and assesses nuclear threats by national entities since 1984. We are not affiliated with any government agency and does not represent the alert status of any military branch. The public should make their own evaluations and not rely on the DEFCON Warning System for any strategic planning. At all times, citizens are urged to learn what steps to take in the event of a nuclear attack. Again and again, I want to emphasize we don't represent the alert status of any military branch. Just because our alert status says 4 or 5 or 3, don't say that's where the United States is. It isn't. We don't report on what the United States DEFCON level is. We wouldn't tell you even if we knew. And anybody can kind of sort of figure out what it is, because at different DEFCON levels, different military branches will do different things. And all you got to do is just look to see what they're doing, and you'll kind of know where they are. And so it's not as big a secret as people make it out to be. But we don't report on that. Thank you for listening to the DEFCON Warning System Digest. We'll be back in a little bit with part 2 of this digest. And then the next digest, we're going to do something a little different. We're going to talk about some interesting nuclear war movies that depict what nuclear war is like. So we thought, if you want a good nuclear war movie, here are our recommendations. But before that, we'll do part 2 of the update, tell you what's going on with Russia and Iran, and because India, Pakistan, North Korea, they're not the only potential problems out there. So my name is Thomas Lonely Wolf. I'm the director of the DEFCON Warning System. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to visit us, defconwarningsystem.com, and our Twitter, DEFCON WS Alerts.